so men are like dogs in the sense that, for the most part, you know, they're loyal, they're faithful, they're going to lick you, go all up. They want physical attention all the time. We're
still talking about dogs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and sex. but there is a sexual component to this. So
well, yeah, that's why I always give the rub.
Yes.
So
I use a little more PG. I do the rub the belly analogy.
Yeah, because listen,
talking about peanut butter now.
listen. There's a lot of men think they're women.
Who let this guy?
A lot of women are. It's amazing how like people are fascinated by relationships, like just like these dating encounters. Because if you think about it, Seinfeld was my favorite show, but also a lot of women love Friends. And Seinfeld and Friends is pretty much all about just dating and relationships.
That's exactly what it's about.
So people are just fascinated by just random dating interactions, you know, and stuff. And there's something about it that's interesting. You know, about that whole phase of life, you know.
Yeah. What did the single girls get any feedback on? You guys got anything?
You know what? Yeah. I mean, there was one of them that was saying, like, you know, I thought there really wasn't any men out there. And then after you guys kind of broke it down with the 20, the hypergamy, then they were like, you know what? I think I just need to change my language and my perspective on it. So, yeah.
That was a good point he made. That I was thinking about watching it again, was how the language needs to change, because that was a good point made.
Yeah. And I did a poll on what people thought if really women do go for the 20%, and the winner was most women.
It was resounding.
68%
Oh my
voted
gosh.
that most women will go for the 20%.
The hard reality with that is a lot of women who are going for the 20% are in the 80 and think they're in the 20.
Ooh,
which is why they're not finding anything.
They have an overinflated view of their
own self.
value. Yeah,
and I think we need to, as you know, the girls around them or men, if they have that view, need to be more honest. I was listening to Kevin Samuels, and though I disagree a lot with what Kevin Samuels says,
the Godfather,
he really is just like, so you make this much money.
He was the king of that. Yeah.
You weigh this much. You're a 5. Oh my God. Dang, but I think we just need to be a little bit more real.
Because I'm thinking to myself, if I'm the 20%, because I'm not. Like, I'm just, so if I was a 20%, right? Mm-hmm. If I was one of the guys, what
makes you think somebody's a 20%? Like,
so I mean social media. I mean in the social media space. They don't know me. They don't know anything about me other than I'm bald. I'm 5'8".
Yeah.
You know, so
I think it's pretty obvious what you mean by the 20%.
Yeah.
Though. I mean, you're objectively.
Like 6 footers.
I'm not.
I know, but a lot of pastors.
Okay, I'll put it this way: in the church world, Carl Lentz is a 20%.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay,
like just
I think it's pretty obvious. You know.
Yeah,
I own that's Pastor Caleb's view of a 20% man.
I own a top dollar Tesla. You know, that type of guy.
Rich Wilkerson Jr. is a 20% These are people you.
But I'm just thinking, like, even if I'm in the church,
are you a model or a pastor?
Even if I'm in the church, but I'm just saying, like, no. If I wasn't a Christian, I wasn't trying to follow Christ. Okay, or maybe even just a lukewarm, tender Christian.
Okay.
And I'm a part of the 20%.
Okay.
And I'm at least 6 foot. Okay. And I'm making good money. And I'm the one that all the women are checking like and DMs to. I'm playing that advantage.
Okay.
I'm not settling. I'm not committing.
Right.
Now, I'm not speaking as a Christian.
Right.
I'm speaking if I wasn't a Christian, I didn't have values. If I didn't have values, I would not miss up on that opportunity. So I would play the game. I would play the field. And I would be like, oh man, Chelsie, she likes me. She wants to hit up. She wants to go on a date. I'm gonna go on a date with Chelsie. And by the 5th date, I'm gonna be like, do you want to have sex or or not? Oh, you're a Christian. You're gonna wait till marriage. Forget you. Let me go to this next. But that's how the 20% operate.
But that's what we see happening. You're not speaking in a personal experience. You're speaking like that's what we see.
I don't have any of that experience.
That's what we objectively see. That's just.
But I know the mind of a man too. Right. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm helping people see, understand. I'm helping people understand the mind of a man. If I was this 20%er, there's no way I'm committing. I can have sex with one woman a week, a different woman a week. I can have sex with a different woman a month. there's no way I'm going to commit. There's no way I'm going to settle, which makes sense why these hot women are saying these men go out on 3 dates and they don't want to commit to me. Why is that? Well, because 20% of this guy's just trying to smash.
So do you think that's like it applies vice versa? Like there's a women 20% and women 80%? Because somebody made that comment
Caleb,
on
your
YouTube.
iced coffee is...
It's almost gone. Sorry. Okay, I'll put it over here.
Do you think that applies with women too? I don't know. What do you think? Like, there's that 20% of women also and 80%.
Well, no, I think
the hypergamy.
Yeah, the hypergamy thing is mostly within women towards men. Okay. That's how it, because we've talked about it before. Is like men find women of all types of calibers beautiful in different ways. Like you see guys, they love women of different shapes, colors, size, everything. Like, and I know guys enough. They don't look at objective beauty necessarily as the start increase of what attraction is. Yeah. But I think we find most women that is their lead-in, right?
Yeah.
Or where they're at, or where a man is at socially, in a hierarchy. Like you put 10 men and you have 2 men that seem in the room socially greater, all 10 women will choose only those 2 men tend to be. Right. But you take 10 women and you bring in any different guys, and there is no social structure that a man will biasly choose 2 out of the 10. They're going to all be different for different reasons, right?
Okay.
And so that's kind of the standard of what you see differently between women and women and
a lot of women though in the world, okay, not Christian women, but in the world, a lot of women in the world a lot of the women in the world are literally happier being a part of a harem with a high value, incredible man than like commit to one little average guy. There is something about the female mind that where the female is okay with, in a sense, sharing her man as long as he's very, very high status. I'm talking like more of like a very primitive biological aspect to that, which, you talk about Solomon and his thousands of wives. That can never happen the other way around.
It's because
that can never happen the other way around, though, with one woman and a harem of men.
Right.
I don't know if you were going to transition to something else.
No, I wasn't. I just wanted to say welcome. We already in the podcast.
I'd love to expand on that.
So I was going to say, everybody, this is all Caleb wanted to talk about.
No, I didn't. I just love your spirit.
Oh, hold on.
I love your spirit.
I'm going to do the welcome. Welcome to Beyond the Letter podcast.
You bring such wonderful.
So as always, we always already jumped into the conversation. We are recording, right, Alex? We got Alex filling in for Corey today, who hits record and then cuts and everything like that. Have you cutted any episodes yet, Alex? Have you cut? No, Corey hasn't had you cut any yet. And then, look, we got Andy here. What's up, Andy? Sitting in a chair, who's homeschooled. That's why he can be here. Yeah. What's up, Andy?
Took school off today.
I just decided. There we go. And then we got Gabe in here. And then once again, we have last week's episode. We got to have
Andy, you got a great smile. I just wanted to compliment you on that, and great hair too.
Thank you.
You probably be 20%.
I work hard on it.
You got the
when you're in your 20s,
hair.
How tall are you? You're gonna be in the 20%, man. You have 20% potential.
I have 20% sorry. I don't know if I want to be in the 20%.
Right. Honestly. Don't be in the 20%.
No, it's better being average. Less temptation. All right.
And then we have Nancy and Chelsie in here today with me and Caleb, the People's Padre. Had great reactions from 2 episodes again. Last episode, Nathan and Sanaz joined us because Caleb was out, and so that was fun. We don't have any feedback on it yet because that's going to happen in a couple days. So, but it was a fun one. Who was it? Jermaine said it was a little boring because there was no argument between Adam and Caleb. So Jermaine was a little disappointed. He was waiting for conflict
from the madness.
But I thought it was great because it was the launch of the conversation of Beyond Ideal. No, we talked about marriage. Yeah,
and you know what? Sanaz and Ashley, they're killing it right now. What they're getting in the women's events is astounding for our ministry. And so our church loves them. They have an incredible voice. And I'm sure the people are just going to love what they have to say in this next pod.
Yeah, and they talked a lot. And Nathan doesn't talk much. So we probably got... Of the 2 hours, we probably got 2 to 3 minutes of Nathan talking, so that was nice. It's better than the 1 minute we had of him the last
every episode.
Before, so.
Yeah.
I love messing with Nathan. So it was a fun episode to film, but it was all on marriage, so it's fun. A couple episodes now we've been on relationships, but like we always see, people love to converse about those things. Relationships,
I know, man,
has a huge part to play in our faith. That's for sure as well. Like relationships is something we live with every single day, and a lot of times we try to escape our relationships, and
it's the most important decision you can make. I mean, what's more important than choosing the spouse that you're going to spend the rest of your life with? What's more important than
that's my theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's like the amount of times I've done divorce counseling. It's like people have not realized we take longer to decide what our next car is going to be than we do. Is this person really the person that I want to marry?
Right.
They maybe spend 24 hours thinking about, yep, I want to marry them. But people will spend 2 years thinking about, do I go with the Mercedes or do I go with the BMW? I don't know. Let me go test drive them. Let me go run my payments. They spend way more time counting that cost than just marriage alone. People spend more time looking for their first house than they do thinking, is this person the right person?
So then you agree with me that it's not bad to put off marriage for some time.
No, I don't agree with that.
Because you seem to be last time that you got to be quick to get married.
No, I don't think you have to be quick to get married. I think you have to be decisive that marriage is good, and that opportunity will come when I find the right person. Like I will pull the trigger when I believe that person's right. So yes, I don't think you should be willy-nilly with marriage anyway. You got to massively count. Yeah, you got to massively count the cost. But at the same time, I think that if you're 20 or 21, you should have in your heart and decide and say, every decision I'm making is going to be in line with marriage is good, and whatever I do in this era, I will take into my marriage with me. Like you have to decide that. Yeah. You can't say, well, I'm going to have fun from 18 to 26 or 30, and then once I feel like my game has run out, then I'll get married, because you're going to bring all that into your marriage with you. So that's why I'm saying,
yeah, for sure.
So that's what I was saying is like you have to realize marriage is good, and it is the greatest system of relationships that God has ever given us. There is no other exhibition of relationship that exists that can beat marriage. So cohabitation can't beat marriage. Polygamy can't beat marriage. Dating, like the Friends model, which almost no one ever gets married in 20 years, that doesn't beat marriage. So that was my thing, is like, you have young people nowadays who don't agree with that. Most comments, even with Christians, we did a youth poll back in the day, and over 50% of the kids thought that you could live with your partner before you marry them. Yeah. And those were Christian kids. So there's a lot of people who disagree on that notion. So I think a young person has to go, no, the greatest system of relationship God has ever given us is marriage.
Well, I would say this too. Though. The greatest blessing, the greatest relational blessing is definitely marriage. But it can also be the greatest curse.
For sure.
So if you're with a horrible person, you're a lot more miserable if you're married than if you're dating them and they're a horrible person, because you have just less attachments, and you can leave them easier. Whereas if you marry that, but I'm just saying, I'm just bringing the other side of the coin, where it's like, yes, you're right, but with that also comes the opposite side of the coin. It could be the greatest curse.
Well, you look at David and Saul's daughter. He hated being married to her. So it's in the scriptures. There's horrible marriages in the scripture. And I think
that's just why that's another reason why a lot of people are cautious, because they have that fear, and that or they, for whatever reason, they do see that, like, wow, that's it, by being attached. If it is the wrong person or whatever, then what am I going to do?
Right. Ask your question, Nancy.
Okay, so you made a comment, correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor Caleb, but you said at the end of the podcast, you said, men, find a woman that loves you more than you love them. I've predominantly have heard the comment that women should find men that love us more. I know that's probably, I don't know if it's like a worldly saying, but
what did you ask the question again?
So about like the comment, how I don't know if you've heard.
Well, let me just correct you. I said desire. I didn't say love.
Okay, desire. So men find a woman that desires
you more than you desire her.
Okay, and I've heard the opposite more. Women find a man that desires you more than you desire them. So I don't know.
Well, here's why I say that.
Can you break that down a little bit more?
Yeah, because women are more willing to marry opportunistically the man. And so a lot of times, because I have in mind kind of the average man who kind of gets the short end of, can be more gullible, kind of get the short end of the stick a lot of times, the average sort of man, that happens more with that type of man where the woman will, and Jermaine brought this up, kind of a thing where she sows her wild oats in her 20s. She sleeps with a lot of men, and then when she's ready to settle down, she has all this baggage, all this emotional baggage, all this baggage from sleeping with all these men. And then what does she do? She chooses kind of the secure, average man, right? She's done with the alphas. She's done with the 20%. She had her fun, and now she's going to choose the average guy. And she doesn't necessarily choose him because she's like physically attracted to him, or she's just head over heels for him. She chooses him opportunistically because she sees him as security. She sees him as she sees his money. She sees if she wants children, she sees, he's not going to be tempted to commit adultery on me because he's average and he doesn't have a lot of options. And so I say that because men should be mindful of that. And so they should discern that. They need to discern that this woman wants me, like she really desires me, like she really romantically is infatuated with me. And so, because a lot of times also in those cases, she'll marry the man, and those usually are the cases of sexless marriages. 25% of marriages are sexless. There's no sex going on. And most of the time it's because the woman doesn't want to have sex with the man because she got everything she wanted out of him. She didn't marry him for physical intimacy. She married him for security, a number of other reasons. She didn't marry him for physical intimacy. But for men, that's the primary reason they get married. So then 25% of marriages now are in sexless marriages. And then this feminist mindset is all about, with women, my body, my choice. So I'm not obligated to sleep with you. If I don't want to, if I don't feel it, if I'm not attracted to you, it's wrong for me to have sex with you because it's my body and I'm my own independent person and I'm not going to be treated that way, and I have to be into it. And so, and that is a real problem right now. But a lot of times that comes from a woman with a lot of sexual experiences in her past. She has a lot of trauma, and she can't pair bond with the man she actually marries. And so what happens, it's not long before she's no longer attracted to him physically, and she doesn't want to have sex, and she won't have sex anymore. And I think, personally, any woman who's not having sex with her husband, if you're in a sexless marriage, now it does happen the other way around, but it's more rare because men are just more into sex than women are. But if your woman is not having sex with you, that is a form of abandonment, and I believe that a man has every right to divorce that woman if she is not having sex with him. So expand
on it further, because a lot of people are going to go in the comments and go, well, but expand on it further in light of Jesus saying, "Only commandment I give you is adultery." So someone's going to come in and say that. So explain that.
Well, wouldn't you? Okay, so you
not
have
for
to
me. Say that for the person who's saying,
let's build it contextually within the whole sphere of the Bible. Well, this is the counsel my dad gave me in the past. He goes, there are 3 reasons: abandonment, abuse, and adultery. Abandonment and abuse is also not in the Bible. So what are you going to tell a woman if she's being beaten up every day? You have to stay with your husband?
Because there was a famous pastor who did say that.
Wow.
It went viral.
Because there's not a Bible verse that says that, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so now abandonment is another logical aspect to this. If your man or woman leaves you out of state and creates a new life, you can't divorce them. You can't file paperwork. They never, they abandoned you. Of course you can.
But
it's common
you
sense.
have to look at, as you look at that 25%, what's that have sexless marriages, and I can't identify with that camp. However, what's the reason why the woman is choosing to abandon or not have sex with the man? I feel like that has to be also part of the conversation.
Well, if it's on the guy, it's
because what if the guy's just being a jerk? He's not put into the relationship, and her way of of responding to how she feels like she's not being loved is, I'm not giving you sex. You can't give me X, Y, and Z. That man then has the right to leave the marriage because she's not giving.
Well, it depends. Well, this is where personal counseling comes in because you can't really. It's a case by case basis, and so but that's another thing is that if her standards are out of the realm of what's biblical, then that is what you're seeing a lot of times. But because okay, so. He doesn't do the dishes. What are common complaints? It depends. It depends.
Oh, but it's case by case. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if he's having affairs, sleeping with other women, she shouldn't, and she should divorce him. But apart from that, like if it's, what are you talking about? Is it? Does he never talk to her?
Yeah.
Does he every night he's with the boys and he comes home at 9 o'clock, sleeps, drinks beer, wakes up, goes to work. He just never spends time with his family or his wife. Okay, well, I kind of understand that. But if he's just the average man, the average married husband who works hard, comes home, has some leisurely activities, is a decent father, is a decent husband, she is obligated to have sex with him. It doesn't have to be every night. It doesn't have to, they have to work it out, what's reasonable. But she is obligated to have sex with him. And even if she doesn't want to, she is obligated to fulfill that act. Because scripturally, that's the preface to getting married. The Bible is not very spiritual when it comes to the first steps of marriage, what should cause a marriage. The Bible is not very spiritual at all. It says basically if you have to have sex, you get married.
Right.
And so sex is critical. It's the first step of any marriage.
Well, it's mandatory in Judaism. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize, because people don't realize Christians, our Christianity derives from Judaism. That's the foundational component. So if you look at the Jewish faith and construct, there are mandatory conjugal relations that are supposed to happen in a marriage. And I've asked a rabbi before, hey, follow me through these ideals because, I do a lot of marriage counseling with Ashley. So I'm trying to parallel the Bible with good sound advice to couples. Yeah. And so to rabbis who are still kind of intrinsically, Jews are still intrinsically holding the Old Testament. Many rabbis, I've asked quite a few, they've told me if a husband or wife denies their spouse of sexual relations outside of them holding up to any bargain, because it's a vow, and we talked about it the last episode, so since you guys haven't heard it yet, you'll hear it, but we talked about how vows aren't contingent upon you holding up your other vows. When you sit there on your wedding day and you say yes to the vows, you hold up to your side of the bargain, and they're supposed to on theirs. Yep. But they cannot be contingent.
Based on if you
I'll only
do
hold
yours.
up to my vow. And part of the vow that we make is we make a lot of vows. And being intimate is one of the vows that's like embedded into the relationship. So as I've talked to rabbis, they go, man, well, if your spouse wasn't being intimate with you, then you bring them to the church leaders. The church leaders are supposed to hold them accountable. If they continue to not do it, then the church gets to a place, speaking of the synagogue, the Jewish church, the church gets to a place where they kick them out of the church community if a husband or wife won't hold up to that bargain of sexual relationships. Now, this isn't barring like trauma or someone who's, you had a hysterectomy and you literally can't do it, and the doctor says you can't, and the husband's trying to not care and still, we're not talking about those situations. We're just saying, because I don't quote unquote feel like it type of attitudes. And there are men and women who do that.
I have a question because I listen to.
Well, let me finish. Let me finish real quick, because then I got to step out and get this vehicle that we're filming something for.
You're leaving me alone?
No.
That's dangerous.
For 5 minutes. I'm going to tell everyone in a second when I'm gone for 5 minutes to pick up something that we're filming for At the Movies. I'm not responsible for whatever Caleb says. But the Jewish community has a process of discipline, which lastly comes into communal ostracization. So it means you become disinvited in your community if you're not holding up to your marriage bargain. So that leads up to say 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and people always forget this verse, especially most pastors don't preach it either. So I'll give Caleb that.
Yeah, it's true.
That note that pastors won't touch this because it's too much on the wife.
Yeah.
It says 1 Corinthians 7:3, the husband should give his wife her conjugal rights. and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time. This is period and other things like that, and health things or whatever, that you might devote yourselves to prayer. So in that time you seek God. But then come together again so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So there are too many couples I sit with that have the why did he step out? Why did she step out? And then you start talking about what did your intimacy look like prior to the affair? Well, I didn't give it to him, or he didn't give it to me, or this or that. And then you pull up 1 Corinthians 7, and you're like, well, I don't own my body, and my wife doesn't own her body. And in the same way, even Paul tells you, if you don't sleep with each other, Satan's going to bring you into temptation, and God forbid any bad decisions be made at that point. So there is a responsibility of that sense, going back to Caleb saying, and most of the men, Nathan and Sanaz did a great job when we did our marriage sprint talking about how intimacy is defined by emotional, physical, and spiritual. And, responsibility of a marriage is to holistically cover. And it's the fact that men want physical, women tend to want emotional, and then what they need is spiritual. Like, that's what ties everything together. So Nathan broke that down again. Answer your question. I got to go get this vehicle. Pastor Aaron, come sit in for me real quick. Make sure Caleb does not say anything cancel worthy, Aaron. Okay?
Need clips though.
I'll be right back.
Well, the scripture.
I listened to my first Drake song. May not mean nothing at all, but I don't want to know you've done for me.
Don't get me rapping.
What is that? What is that? Name it.
I want this.
Man, that was.
Oh,
that's a
gosh.
dope song.
God's plan is a dope.
Got 4 of the goats on that song.
You look good today.
That's
man.
what we all said
Got the
today.
hat backwards. Got the button up.
I'm in a new character arc.
That's why.
Okay, what's the character arc?
This is the Breaking Bad character arc. We'll see where this. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so. Did you have a question?
Yeah, that scripture answered my question though.
Okay.
Because I was listening to a podcast of a married couple that were talking about they're like married couples. There are going to be seasons where you go through married without sex, but it has to be agreed upon between the two. And I didn't know. I'm not married, and I'm not out here having sex, so I don't know like what the conversation revolves around. But is that a thing where? As married couples, there are seasons where you go through where you agree, hey, at this time, and their reason for it was they weren't intimately connected on a personal level without physical connection. So they were losing intimacy in their conversations, in their actual relationship. So they said, let's not mask this by having sex. Let's put that off for a season, and let's develop our intimacy in other ways. What do you think about that? That was my question.
I think they're both in agreement. It's a great way to reestablish that emotional connection. I do. Yeah, because when you're even like for men, well, like it's helpful like to go through those seasons of fasting with sex, because you realize how much that kind of like you realize how much that controls the good things you do for your wife. And so it helps you to see and helps your love for your wife be more genuine and authentic, because you're able to see, man, so much I do for her is just so that I can have sex that night. Like I take her on a date and I'm the whole time I'm thinking, oh, we're going to have great sex tonight. Or I give her this gift and I'm upset if she doesn't want to have sex with me that night. And so I think, at least for me, that season it just helps you reestablish that emotional connection and really see your spouse again as like a friend.
Yeah.
A friend, and develop that friendship sort of relationship with your spouse.
I think couples that wait to have sex until they get married also have healthier confrontation, have healthier conversations, because, if like to Chelsea's point, if I'm having sex as a mask of, hey, we got over it because we have makeup sex. That doesn't mean that the issue's resolved, though.
Right.
That just means that I feel better at this point, that you're not going to leave me. You still want me, but our issues aren't resolved. So couples that are doing that before they get married will find that once they're married, those same patterns happen. That like we fight, we don't really have resolution, but like let's make up physically, but we haven't made up emotionally or spiritually.
Yeah. And I just want to emphasize, if it's at a point where the party that's denying sex does not want to work it out anymore, and they're just put their foot down, and they're just like, listen, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't like it anymore. I am asexual, or whatever their excuses are. That man has every right to divorce her, or that woman has every right to divorce that man. It is a form of abandonment. And I want to emphasize that because 25% of marriages are sexless marriages. And a lot of people, especially in the church, don't understand that they do have that right. I believe. I don't have a scripture verse to support that, but I personally believe it's a form of abandonment, and you don't have to be stuck in a sexless marriage. I don't believe God is going to be upset with you if you divorce your spouse because they're denying that essential element.
And that comes after putting in the work, going through counseling.
That's why I say, if they're just at a point where I'm not willing to work on it. Like, this is just me now. Like, this is me. I don't want sex. So you're going to have to figure it out. Like, you're going to have to use your hand. You have to figure it out, whatever, but it's not going to be with me. And yet that spouse still expects you to be with them and pay the bills and parent the children under the same roof and clean the dishes and fulfill all these obligations but we're not having sex. Like, so what is this? Is this what is this? Are we roommates? Then are we just friends? Like, how do we define our marriage if we're not having sex then? And is it even worth it to continue in the marriage at that point?
Full disclosure, I have no idea what we're talking about. Just got here.
The question.
You just gotta be ready in season and out of season.
Yes.
What I will say practically is, in marriage, sex is utilized as a physical expression to serve my spouse. So I'm not in a mood to have sex. I'm not always in the mood to serve at church.
Oh yeah.
But I love Jesus. I love the body of Christ. So if I look at sex inside of marriage as the lens of I am expressing love to my spouse through my body, then I don't have to have a certain mood to serve. I have disciplines to serve. It's my love that motivates me to serve the one that I love. So when I'm hearing like, okay, I'm not into this or I don't want this, et cetera, that's about that person. But marriage is about love, and love expresses itself through service. So it just so happens that the topic is sex. But
the fact that it's hard for people in our day and age to accept the fact that it is an obligation in marriage, and that word obligation is very offensive in our current day and age.
But you're not obligated to get married.
Yeah.
So
but that's the thing. Like, you'll have people in marriages. You tell them when you read a Bible, that's misogynistic. When you read Paul in 1 Corinthians saying that your wife's flesh is your flesh and your flesh is her flesh. Heck no! My body, my choice. You're not going to make me do that. And so the word obligation is pretty much like what you're saying. You're obligated, just like you're obligated when you're a Christian to serve. It's an obligation whether you like to or not. And sex is the same thing. It's not an option in a biblical marriage. So
I think there's just an unhealthy relationship with the word obedience, because when you think about the word obedience, I feel like sometimes it can have that like negative feeling towards it. But with God and our obedience with him, it's like, it's an honor. I want to be obedient because I love you. With my parents, you guys have provided, you guys have been there. So I want to be obedient because I respect you. So that when you put it in a relationship aspect, I want to be obedient to my husband because I love him, I respect him, and I honor him. So I think there has to be a healthier relationship with and understanding with the word obedience. So when it comes to relationships.
Where did the word obedience come from? Did we read
No, I was just saying, no. This we talked about it last time.
We did last week.
Yeah, last week.
We did a whole obey. That was Nathan and Sanaz's episode was all on the vows, because we showed a viral video of a woman going to the vows, and the pastor says, "Will you obey your husband?" And she says, "No, move on." So we spent the whole episode, not the whole, but most of the episode talking about what does obedience look like.
So it just obligation reminded me like a synonym with obedience. So that's why I wrote it up.
I think submission and obedience are two completely separate things that sometimes we try to say that they're one and the same. I do believe that submission is more about my posture towards my husband. So like my kids can be obedient to me while giving me a negative attitude. So they weren't submissive. Hey, can you take out the trash? Fine, I'll take out the trash. They were obedient in that moment because they did what I asked them to do. But they weren't submitted because the vision is to have a clean house. So they're not submitted to that vision.
Yeah.
So I think a wife's role is to be submitted to the vision. The challenge is when the husband doesn't have a clear vision, then it's only relegated to obedience. Just do what I say at this time. But I think it's on the husband to have what that vision lays out. Are we in agreement? Can you submit to this vision? So now we're operating both in obedience to the vision.
Yeah, and but I mean, and you're right. But it biblically, it's the wife obeys the husband. So yes, it's in there. They obey the vision. But let me even specify that to what the Bible defines as vision as the husband.
Okay.
And I say that because a lot of pastors or leaders will shake in their boots just making that statement. Because it's easy to say, wife, you need to obey the vision of the house.
Okay.
It's very easy. It's not controversial to say that. Very controversial to say, wife, you need to obey your husband. And I say that, so that's...
I think there's a misconception that women don't... I don't have too much teeth in the game because I'm not married. But I don't have an issue submitting or being obedient to a man that is submissive and obedient to God. So I think that conversation is fair, so as you also tell the man, and the man is being told, you must be submitted to God. Because I don't see a lot of women who have an issue submitting or being obedient to her husband who truly is following God. I don't see the issue. The issue is when submit to me, and they're out there acting crazy. That's where my issue is.
Yeah,
because the problem isn't.
You're right.
Women don't have an issue with that. If you're really,
well, here's the thing. It's like the thing is that women still expect men and husbands to have 100% responsibility. Correct? So women in our society...
In the marriage?
Well, that's usually the complaint, right? He's not fulfilling his responsibilities. And so women and wives expect their man to fulfill their responsibilities, 100% of their responsibilities. There's no question about that. That's not controversial. Even feminist worldly women expect men to fulfill responsibilities. The problem is that, okay, I'll give you the responsibilities, but you have to give me the authority. Because biblically, that's the two go hand in hand. And so, yes, I will fulfill responsibilities, but I also get the authority. And a lot of times women aren't willing to make that jump. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to have the man who fulfills all of his who she expects him to fulfill all his responsibility. But even at that, she's not willing to relinquish authority, which is given by God to the man, to the husband, in the marriage. And so, but I agree with what you're saying, and of course that's like the ideal. That's the ideal, but the scripture doesn't give that condition though, right? And so even with a wife who's married to an average Joe, stereotypical Al Bundy type guy, Al Bundy, married to Al Bundy. Al Bundy's a good example. The scripture doesn't give you that condition.
Yeah, I'm not saying women
Yeah.
only.
I mean, I
only
know the
submit
ideal,
to
like-
your man if he's following God, but I'm
Yeah.
saying the controversy lies when
I
there's
understand.
this message being taught,
Yeah.
especially to single men. Find a woman who's gonna respect you and give you authority, but there's not also equal weight saying, hey, you must be a man that try your best to be a man that is worthy to be submitted to.
Oh, of
And I think
course.
that
You
needs to be-
really, you don't, because I feel like that's where the weight is on, because that's not controversial and that's not going to give you any heat.
think there's weight on- I
by
think there's weight on
telling
that.
men to man up. Everybody's telling men to man up. So I think I disagree with you there, because that is the message in the world and the
It's
church.
not man up. It's not man up. It's not man up. That's not the message I'm trying to say. What I am trying to say is your character one that a woman is worthy to say, I want to submit to that type of man.
So
that's not man up, make more money, go do. That's not that. It's more a character.
If we take
thing.
this broader outside of marriage and just look generally what Paul said, he could look to
It's
his
better
mentee.
to be single.
He said that. But
Well, it is funding.
But so him as a single man also told his mentee, "Follow me as I follow Christ." So when I'm interpreting that, hey, I have the authority and the responsibility for you to follow my lead because you can see fruit in my life that I'm following Christ. And that gives me the credibility for me to say, hey, submit to what I'm doing because I'm benefiting you.
Yeah.
Ephesians 5 says, a wife submit to your husband as unto the Lord.
Yeah.
So I think the weight is on both parties. I think there are women that aren't submitted to the Lord. So if you're not submitted to the Lord, anything that looks like submission is going to be a negative.
Yeah.
If you're already submitted to the Lord, you're going to have a discernment if your husband or the man that you're choosing to follow is submitted to the Lord.
Yeah.
The challenge is if a woman is deceived and marries someone who is not submitted to the Lord. But now you put yourself in this situation where you
Bow down to
biblically
me.
as a
Yeah,
wife,
yeah.
you need to submit because 1 Peter
Yeah.
3 says, hey, if you're married to an Al Bundy,
Yeah.
this is how you need to treat him with your conduct. So I think it's
And and that's all I was saying.
yeah.
I agree.
And that is all I was saying. And yeah. And so yeah. Yeah, that was it. Nothing else came.
What just happened in your head?
The ether.
I was like, oh, something's gonna drop right
I
now.
was expecting the ether to download, and nothing came to me.
This nugget right now.
Caleb
about to
doesn't
be
have
so
so nice.
I was like,
I don't think people realize that part of my job is to keep Caleb talking. And so the moment I'm not at the table anymore,
He said,
I want to ask Chelsea. No, this is what I was
Nobody
honestly
provokes
thinking.
Caleb. You
This is
have-
what
look,
I
now
was
he's provoked.
This is what I was honestly
Look,
thinking,
now
though.
he's provoked.
But it would change subjects
Moment
because
I start
I've been
talking.
wanting to ask Chelsea because we're on the topic of sex, and I think that's such a great topic, like to
yeah.
title
All right, Aaron, let's
the
switch.
show.
So
what you want to ask
Because
me?
no, I want.
she just said she's not out here.
No, I'm
Definitely.
so curious because of my my theory about the 20%, right? I'm curious from your perspective, from these men that you've dated, mainly the ones who you would kind of qualify as like the 20%, you would consider the 20%. I'm curious if the reason why it didn't work out was because they were only interested in having sex with you. And the moment that they discerned, oh, you're this super Christian, holy, pure Christian, you're only going to wait till marriage. Well, forget that. I just want to have sex. Then obviously they wouldn't tell you that.
They wouldn't tell me that. Could
But
be a
did you
reason.
ever discern? I'm curious. I'm just curious. Like
One guy, yeah, I discerned
Okay,
that
okay.
he wanted a little bit more. He knew
Yeah.
I wouldn't give that. So one guy, the others, I couldn't fully discern. More
Okay.
of my discernment is they're not ready to settle down. They want to still mess with multiple girls, and they know if they get with me, and it was another guy, it's two people. If they get with me, I wouldn't tolerate that. So I was just
Right,
like, I'm
right.
not gonna
Okay,
commit,
well,
she's gonna have me
okay.
settle down, and so they back off. But
well, that's good confirmation of
your
my theory.
I agree completely with your theory.
Well, and I know men, so I mean, it's not that big of a question because
You know the
I know
men's?
how men think. I am a
you
man.
are,
It's hard, but from
I
a
agree with your
woman's
theory.
perspective, though,
Yeah.
I'm curious if you discern that. Okay,
No,
yeah,
it's-
that makes perfect sense.
100%.
Yeah.
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 Your theory is awesome. I agree with your theory.
Yeah, you didn't really respond to my whole exposition of hypergamy. I'm curious. What's your final analysis? Did it make sense, or are you?
It made 100% complete
okay.
sense. I agree with you. Yeah, I have no argument with that.
Yeah, that was interesting because
What?
apparently, I'm not. I don't consume much of that sphere of content. Caleb has, so he's aware of like the red pill, blue pill, like conversations that happen amongst a lot of young black men and even young men in general, but it's really big in the young black man community. This whole, the fresh and fit guys who have OnlyFans girls and they talk all that girl, what's her name? Pearl, who's very famous in the relationship sphere. But apparently when we were done, Caleb was like, wow, I was surprised the girls didn't push back so much, because apparently in this sphere of womanhood and manhood, that concept of conversation is the most controversial. Like apparently that 80-20% women give the most pushback on in regards to anything else Caleb has ever said, which Caleb has said a lot of controversial stuff that people have engaged in the content, either agreeing or disagreeing, but even seeing the feedback from the 2 episodes ago, it was like, man, we even had seasoned people that are in relationships or have been married before, divorced now, and get feedback and was just like, yeah, Caleb's spot on that. And it was just like, in the secular world, that's what gets the most pushback.
And that's what I was
But apparently
gonna say.
with our Christian lens, it was the most agreeable of any of the things that you have said.
I think it's because
I thought that was extremely interesting.
I think, and I think it's
point.
because you're revealing women's secrets in a sense.
Secrets.
And we live in a society.
I'm so glad he just got up from the
reminds me of
table.
We live in a society.
See what I get out of him, Aaron? That's what you do.
We live.
I'm training Aaron in case I ever got to go somewhere. See that?
We live in a society where they teach us that women are so mysterious. We can never figure women out, right? Like men are these bumps on a log.
Men are from Mars,
idiots,
women are
right?
from Venus.
Yeah. So men are they just want sex and food. They're so easy to understand. But women, they're so mysterious. But it's like okay, well, they're really not. They're really not. Like they're really just like men, can be figured out. Like they're most men are the same in what they want, right? Biologically.
I call them dogs.
Most women, dogs, and women are cats. Women are cats.
Yeah.
Men are dogs, women are cats. And I just think when you kind of show.
Do you want us to explain that?
Yes, explain that, please.
Okay, so here's how
this is a great illustration.
I'm like,
cats.
I'll let Caleb explain the cats part because I don't want to get in trouble.
It's not negative. It's not a negative thing.
But
it's
here's
just very. And I have a cat and a dog. So I could speak from personal experience as I observe their natures.
Okay.
So the
Adam.
dog.
Yeah.
So here's what I commonly do in like marriage counseling and even in our premarital stuff is I'll right away tell the wife or the person going into marriage or whatever it is. A guy is very fundamentally like a dog in the sense of in order for my dog to be happy.
Oh, you said this in marriage spring.
Yeah. I just have to do 3 things. Do you remember what the 3 things are?
You rub me, feed me,
and tell me I'm a good boy.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a man, right? That's a man. You come home. What do you do with the dog? You come home. You touch him and you pet him and you rub him, right? A man just wants to be touched, okay? That's all forms of intimacy. He wants his back rubbed. He wants you to put your hand and rub your hand through his scalp. He wants you to tell, are you so muscular? Or whatever it may be. It's a touch, right? It's this, and then even into physical intimacy. So that's what you do with a dog. The moment you see a dog, what does it call you to do? To pet it. That's it. And then what you do is, you hungry? You want a treat? You want a snack? Men just want to be fed. That's it. And then lastly, when the dog's did everything it's supposed to do and went potty where it's supposed to, it did everything, like it wasn't bad, it didn't eat up the carpet or the thing, then you tell him, who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? And that dog can die and go to heaven. It is the happiest. The dog is not asking for any more other complications. Fundamentally,
It'll go to sleep.
That's a man, right?
Yeah.
I come home. You ask me if I'm hungry, feed me, you touch me, you rub my belly, tell me, and then lastly, tell me I'm a good boy when I've been a good boy. Like, if Ashley does those 3 things, winner, what do you want? Pull up the website, buy whatever you want, blah, blah, blah. Women, on the other hand, not so much. They don't, now you may say, I like when a man takes me out and feed me. There's blend, you can massage, but this is a basic fundamental. So then you go more accurately, they're cats, which cats are a little bit more fickle. what a cat loved yesterday, it may not love tomorrow. So and you can speak more in the cat analogy, but that's essentially what it's much more complicated. A cat could be very happy in 1 minute, and then a cat could be very angry in the next minute. It exhibits much more of emotions. Cats have good days and bad days. Cats are a little bit of troublemakers, in that sense. So it's just saying, but
it is the best illustration that I have found for the difference between.
So when I do marriage counseling, like that's one of my initial lead-ins.
So here's the thing: are you? Oh, I want you to finish your thought.
No, that was it. So I'm just saying, when I sit with couples, I just try to exhibit right away. Here's who we're talking to. We're talking to two very different people who have their own. They're still both complicated in their own right. Yeah. But a man is much more binary. It's ones and twos, baby. Like just keep that thing going.
And he's loyal. Okay. So men are like dogs in the sense that, for the most part, they're loyal, they're faithful, they're gonna lick you, go all up. They want physical attention all the time.
We're still talking about dogs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and sex. but there is a sexual component to this. So
that's why I always give the rub.
Yes.
So I use a little more PG. I do the rub the belly analogy.
Yeah, because listen,
talking about peanut butter now.
listen. There's a lot of men think they're women. A lot of women are.
Wait, how did peanut butter? Oh my God.
A lot of men think their women are like dogs. They expect them to like they want to have sex as much as them. They want to be physical as much as them. But they're not. They're cats. You can't push it. You can't force it. You got to let them come to you most of the time, right? So you got to give them their independence, right? So my cat knows what my cat wants. Every morning, 4 o'clock, he goes to the door. He wants to roam the neighborhood for a couple hours. He knows what he wants. If I go up to my cat when he's in Ariel's bedroom and I try to pet him, he's going to bite me. He's going to be pissed off at me. I have to wait for him to come to me. Right. When I'm sitting watching Seinfeld, and he's all up in my grill, and I gotta wait for him to come to me. I can't force it. And dogs are just constantly want attention. They constantly want, and that's how men are. They just constantly,
they're always there.
And
they are.
And so with women are just like cats. You got to let them be independent. You got to let them do their thing. You can't force, you can't be obsessive. Going back to what we talked about, you can't be obsessive. You can't be overly needy. You can't show desperation. You got to let them be. You got to let them breathe. You got to give them air and let them.
And unlike last time, what you're not talking about is you can't be in love.
Let absence help grow the heart fonder. Right? That's how it is with women. If you're always around women. You're always around the woman. You're always with her. You're going to get annoyed. She's going to get annoyed with you. So you also have to walk that fine line, especially in the dating sphere, and even in marriage. You got to walk that fine line of appropriate absence, where you're not always texting her. You're doing certain things where you are establishing this distance that helps so that when you do come together, it's more meaningful. And so that's how cats are. You got to give them their space. And a lot of men, though, they think like, dude, bro, like when you get married, like your wife is not going to want to be humping you 24/7 like you want to hump her.
Yeah. Yeah. Aaron, what do you think about this right now? Aaron, where are you at? Where are you at emotionally right now?
I am fresh off an HR meeting. I was literally in an HR meeting. That's where I'm so like this is a hard pivot for me.
From licking to peanut butter.
So this is good. This is the diversity
I am
of our
overwhelmed
church.
too.
If our HR is listening right now,
She'll be like, what?
Yeah.
I acknowledge the dog and cat parallels with men and women. I want to complement that men and women go through different seasons. And when women are safest, they may exhibit other
dog-like features. I agree.
Yep.
Thank you.
I was gonna
Well,
say,
it's
I don't
it's
really
not a one-to-one
resonate with
correlation.
it.
It's a metaphor.
But, yeah.
I mean,
so there's different.
Yeah.
You
For
just
the
took
most
that
part, I
so
agree
far.
with
let's not nitpick the metaphor. I mean,
I agree with the metaphor.
but because I agree with you, but it's like that doesn't illegitimize the metaphor.
Oh yeah, women.
Yeah.
And I
I
said
agree with the
women.
metaphor.
Women love to be fed. It's not to say
And
that.
touched.
You know. Yeah.
And they're very
yeah.
clean. Cats
Yeah.
are clean, always cleaning themselves. Dogs stink.
Caleb's going deep into these metaphors.
Yeah.
I like.
They
to do
hate
like a
being
very-
dirty, man. And that's
you
one thing
guys-
I've learned about cat. They hate being dirty. Always got to be clean. Always got to be pristine. Very orderly. You know, even from the way they go to the bathroom. You know, it's crazy.
Have you guys seen those cat videos where these cats are just like beating people up? It's just like.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah,
hitting
yeah,
people.
yeah.
That's
Is that
what
Erica? Are you trying to say something about your wife, Erica, right now?
Like I'm giving an example.
Oh, wait a
Aaron's like,
second.
well, there's one metaphor I agree with.
Well, this brings
This
up another
part.
distinction between
Oh,
the
gosh.
sexes.
Here we go.
Because if men are really good at, so men typically use violence, and the way that way that men express aggression or sin is typically violence, and what's the other one? Like violence and
Outburst?
what's that?
Outburst or no?
What are ways like men typically, like in marriages or in relationships, men express their anger?
Isolation?
Mainly like violence.
Well,
and
it's like
there's
slamming
another one I'm
door,
thinking.
hitting a wall.
Yelling.
It's outburst. It's an outburst of yelling. You know,
Emotions?
emotion. Is that what you're trying to?
Well, no,
correlate to?
well, because women are because they're not the physical dominant creature. They're physically weaker. So what the point I was making and connecting with that is the way women lash out is through their words and through manipulation.
Okay.
Right, and so women are excellent wordsmiths when they really want to tear you down, right? When they really want to tear a person down or really want to tear a man down. So the illustration has been drawn where a man will kill somebody he doesn't like or hurt somebody he doesn't like. Women will women will gossip about a woman she doesn't like until that woman kills herself.
Okay.
It's the whole mean girl, right?
Yep.
It's the whole mean girl concept. And so it just goes to, it's just pointing out that the differences once again between the sexes, how women are really good at using their words and the way. Now, this is why in a feminized, female-dominated society, you're seeing a lot of what you're seeing on social media and in the media, where it excels on gossip and slander. And so that's one element of a society that's become feminized, is where I'm not going to kill you like I did in the past. Like a man would just kill another man that was competing with him in war or that he found was a threat. In today's society, I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to censor you. I'm just going to remove your bank account. I'm going to remove your social media. I'm going to blacklist you. I'm going to slander you beyond recognition. I mean, this is what they've done to Trump, right? I'm just going to slander. This is what the media has done to Trump. And you have other examples of this where it's just slander and gossip in order to destroy a person. And I think that's good wisdom to be aware of how the sexes operate, because a lot of times we think that women are angels. We think that they're pure. Especially, we think that sometimes men can think.
Look at Chelsie. Why you say that?
Well, Chelsie is pure. Chelsie is pure. She's the only pure person.
Well, Nancy's next to you too.
Nancy too. I'm sorry.
No.
He brought up Chelsea.
I won't take that title. I will not. I mean, I aspire to, but I will not.
Caleb's looking at me
because we say, well,
pure.
right.
Look at women.
I mean, I feel like in a feminine.
Aaron over there is like.
I feel like in the feminist culture we're in, like we have this idea that we tend to default to, like women are are pure creatures, right? And so if a woman cheats or if a woman does something wrong, well, there has to be a man at fault, right? Like, because a woman could not just be evil for the sake of being evil like men are.
Yeah.
And so, but people need to realize, no, women can be evil just as men can be evil, and women are not these pure angelic creatures that Disney has built them up to be. They're sinners. They're fallen.
Original sin is not a respecter of persons.
It's not a respecter of persons. And the manifestation of that sinful nature is different than it is with men. And I think it's really good to understand and be able to see those differences when you're navigating life.
It is behind the rise of women, like, kind of taking on, I think we've always been kind of violent in that way, not always pure, but I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about the effects of hip hop in our culture today, and how hip hop really is the leading influence right now in our culture. Yeah, and as I look at the rise of hip hop right now, a lot of women are dominating, and the language that they like, it is in hip hop right now for women. It is in for them right now. To be a woman in hip hop is it right now.
It's a golden era, or what?
I think it is a golden era.
I
really do think it is.
Yeah, there's a new Netflix special that came out.
Yes, ladies.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
It'll be good for you to check out.
Oh, phenomenal.
Well, I don't know anything about. I literally pray all day. I preach on Sundays. I come in. I do this podcast. Caleb's my only reach to the outside world.
Yeah. You would love
Degenerate. Caleb's my only reach to the outside world.
When you walked out, he started to sing Drake. You missed it.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I told Aaron I'm in my Breaking Bad character arc.
Give it to us one more time. Show him the song that you just sang.
Man, I mean nothing at all, but I'm the one for me. I want it forever. I'm in never. I'm in never. You don't know that song?
He just made Drake.
That's my first Drake song. My first Drake song, and I only listened to it because Eminem and Kanye was on it.
That sounded country just now.
Right?
I was just in Kentucky, and I'm pretty sure the same person that served me my dinner sounded like that when they was talking
Drake
to me.
sounds too soft for me. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to get into him. Sounds too soft.
He's a softie. From what I'm aware of, he's a softie.
I'm waiting to get in my Bruno Mars phase because I know when I do the way I obsess on things, I know I'm just going to be hitting you up.
I'm very excited for that. Yeah, that's one artist.
So what are you obsessed with right now? What is it? Is it Drake?
Right now, I'm probably
Eminem.
No, I'm still on Ye.
Ye?
I went back to Ye. I went off Eminem. Now I'm back to Ye.
Wow.
It'll be somebody new next week, probably.
Got it.
It'll probably be Bruno Mars. But the way I obsess over things, Adam better be ready to give me a hookup when I get into.
So I have this theory. You guys want to join with me? It's not a theory. It's just a desire.
Oh, desire.
I want to start dressing Caleb as like a West Coast cowboy. So I want him to get
the opposite of what I'm going for.
No, I don't want you to be. Well, Bruno's cool. You got a Bruno vibe right now, but I think Caleb has to look for it. You know, these guys that are wearing, like tucked in denim shirts with like flared out jeans with cowboy boots. Like,
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I think that would be a vibe for Caleb.
I think
it's a vibe for Caleb.
What are you trying to go for?
I could see
like earring, maybe tattoo.
Oh, you're trying to
maybe dye my hair blonde.
That's like Malibu's Most Wanted stuff. I want you to stay, the bad boy, the real bad boy. Real bad boy would be you looking like
that's like YMCA, isn't it?
No,
it's like gay YMCA.
No,
I don't know.
No, it's not. It'd be a vibe.
No, it would be a vibe. I can see the jeans, the flared jeans for sure.
Thank you. With the cowboy, I want to take him over to Tacovas. I want to get him some cowboy boots. I want to get him some Wrangler cowboy boot or Wrangler flared, dress pant stuff, and then
it
would even work with the shirt you're wearing right now.
It would
work with the shirt you're wearing. You got stuff already. Your knitted polos. That's what it goes with.
It goes with
that, like the knitted stuff and everything like that.
It'd be
shopping day.
If you bless me with it, yeah.
If I bless you, I'll bless you with it. I'll go get it.
I'm gonna join this one then too.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Nancy's like, "What do you want me to wear?"
If you're buying them, shoot.
I do it for I dress my wife most of the time. Probably.
I know you have. You always have. You and Nathan. Man, when you get him and Nathan in a department store, that is a spectacle.
Really.
My first trip with them. When I first started pastoring here and preaching on stage, the first thing that they did was took me to a department store, and they swagged me up, man.
Yeah,
but I'll never forget it though, because I'm just like, man, these guys, how do they know what they're doing? They're
literally
just like, they're
changes a
magicians. They're
person.
just like, oh, this, pew, oh, this, pew, this, pew, pew, pew. And I'm like, what? How do you see these connections, these patterns, these
You're our canvas.
combinations?
You're our canvas, and we want to paint something beautiful of you.
What
I like
accent
taking
was
a guy.
that?
It's like somewhere between Andy Warhol, like Swedish in Dutch.
With
That's
Dutch,
somewhere
got it.
west.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's
That's
like
one of my joys in
that
life.
skinny Indian guy. Have you seen this guy? He's like the skinny Indian guy that suits up like these ugly men, and he's hilarious. He's like this skinny Indian.
Oh, the guy
dude.
in China. Yeah,
Or China. Yeah.
Well, he's Indian, but he's in China.
Oh, I was
he's
about
a
to say.
he's
I
a
know.
he's
Oh,
a
his
tailor in
videos are
China.
hilarious,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. His name is I forget, but he's like, look at this beautiful Asian man in front of me. But he's getting, I mean, dude's killing it with the the tailoring game. But I love to take people, especially like how Caleb would dress. He had like the Adam Sandler style kind of look with the oversized shirt and shorts.
Yeah.
So then we were like, all right, early on, we're like, man, we're gonna change that. But then I do most all the shopping for Ashley. I was recently at a Aritzia in Los Angeles, and then I was buying a bunch of outfits for Ashley, and the worker was like, oh, who are you getting this for? I'm like, oh, I'm getting it for my wife. They're like, oh, a gift. And I'm like, no, I do all her shopping for her, most of it. And she was like, oh my gosh. She called like 3 other workers over. She's like, you won't believe this. This guy shops for his wife, and she's not even here. Look at everything he's getting.
Yeah.
And then
Dang.
all the girls were like, who's
Can I
with
give
me?
you my
Jermaine,
number?
I think. Jermaine was, were you with me, Jermaine? No, someone else was
All
with
the
me. I
girls try
forget
to hit
who.
on you after that?
No, they didn't hit on me. But they were really. They're like,
Like
man, more
fascinated.
husbands need to come in here and do that and stuff
I
like
like
that.
that.
And I was like, I like doing that with my
I think
wife.
dressing night. What do
You know?
you girls think about this? The men, how men can like up their game, like confidence gets them into like above. And then I was also thinking too, like the ability to cook is probably a big game changer nowadays for dating
For
women.
men or just
Like
period?
if a man wants to up his game, and
learn how to cook
yeah,
a good
and,
meal. Yeah.
and,
And a
get a
small
woman
thing,
and get a
too.
woman outside of his range. If he like really masters like
okay
some
with
great
that.
dishes, and I feel like
I cook for
that's
Ashley.
a big.
One of my when me
positive.
and
Just
Ashley,
talking about. Oh, she asked me to ask.
when
you
me and
something about
Ashley were
cooking.
dating, my first meal I made her was beef bourguignon, which is a French beef stew, and I probably made that for her within the first couple months of dating, and she loved it. I had her over.
That's
I
the
did,
reason she
I
married
did
you,
some
man.
bread.
Yeah.
Made some
Yeah,
beef
you're a good cook. He's a good cook.
Yeah.
She
That's
said
one of
that
my weaknesses I want to work on this next phase of my
learning-
life. Huh?
Is learning how to cook.
Is learning how in my Breaking
learn how
Bad
to
phase. I'm gonna learn how to cook.
I could teach you how to do that. I could do that. I could take on that
You're gonna
challenge.
start a
Just kind of
neighbor?
do one.
We're gonna start
meal at
slow.
a
We're gonna
time.
start first. Aaron needs to get on this too because he's a garbage cook too.
Are you
So
gonna-
Oh,
you
wow.
let's make a
What?
fit. He can't cook to save his life.
I would have never
Start a neighborhood
known.
group. Teach men how to cook.
You can't make
never
cereal,
known.
huh? Like Erica
You
has to
can't
make you
make
cereal.
cereal.
I struggle with it. The portions, I struggle with.
You look like a guy that could cook though.
Yeah,
Like when I
I
see you, I
genuinely
think,
thought
man,
you're
he
like a
probably can cook
cook.
really well.
I would take offense to that if I were you, Aaron.
Why? He just has the look of a good cook.
What does a good cook look like?
Like you.
That's
George
true.
Jermaine's a good
I
cook too.
genuinely
Okay,
thought
Ashley
you
said
could
you like
cook.
masticholi and ham and pickle rolls.
Oh heck no! She texted you that.
She no, we were just talking
Okay,
about it before
here-
the pod.
Oh.
Tell me the story.
So I'm like dating Ashley and stuff like that, and Ashley's half white and half black, and her mom's whole side is from Poland, so they're Polish. So, and they're from the Midwest. They're from Chicago. So it's very
Wow,
family. They're very, and so their last name is Mezik, and so very Polish. So they have other Polish dish, but then they kind of have these like white side dishes. And one of them is a dish called pasta choli, which is like, it's like a pasta enchilada / lasagna, but made with pasta. Is very white, and then they make these, and then what they do is they get ham, like they lay out a piece of ham.
Very
and
Italian, you mean?
No, very no.
Because that's different.
No, it's not Italian.
right?
Well, they're
Oh, it's
Polish,
not
but-
Italian.
No,
Oh.
it's just
Oh, yeah,
obviously
that's
it's
true.
pasta, but it's not
Yeah.
like you can't go to
Okay.
Italy and order pastaccioli. It's like a total American white, invention type of thing. Okay. It's like hamburger helper type stuff, you know.
Got it.
And then, and that one wasn't too odd, but it was weird. It's called pastaccioli. I was really thrown off by it. So maybe someone's white, they know more of the history of it because I identify as African American. So, so then the other thing that super threw me off was what you do is you take out a piece of ham, you take a big square of cream cheese, and then you take a pickle, like a long pickle, and then you roll it all together. So almost like a sushi roll. And so you roll the ham with the cream cheese and with the pickle, and then you slice it like into little bite-sized sushi roll pieces. And then you put like a toothpick in them. And then it's like the go-to appetizer in Ashley's family. So one of the first times I'm over, Ashley's like, grabs one and just crushes it. She just like, and then I look and I'm like, we're dating. I'm like, what is that? She's like, oh, it's a ham cream cheese pickle roll. And I was like, now mind you, I'm black. This, it's just I'm totally
unforgettable.
If you're really black,
side.
if you're really black, I want you to sing "Violent Crimes."
No, I'm not gonna do that.
No, brother, you ain't black.
You can't play me on that.
I'm pretty sad you just forgot about your Hispanic side.
No wait, Aaron, do you know "Violent Crimes"? Isn't that one of the greats? We sung that last time.
I was in HR with Kim talking about policy. I had to let her
Aaron has no
our
comment.
lead pastor is African American.
So ultimately I'm there and I'm like, what is this? She's like, oh, well, my family's Polish. I don't think it's a Polish thing, but it's big in their Midwest area. And I just look and I'm just like, because if you knew her dad's a 6'5" African American dude. I mean, Tom was like an OG, and then her mom's from the Midwest, from Chicago too, but they're from Poland. So they have their family is a very Polish family culture, not an African American family culture. So when I'm dating her, that's my first experience in her sense of that kind of Midwest culture. And so it desperately threw me off because I'm like, do I want to marry a girl who eats ham and cream cheese and pickle rolls, like as a luxury?
She's like,
you know,
also,
like, no.
also, Pastor Adam thought like it was weird that my family, like that side, they kiss each other on the lips. As,
They
like, a
do. The
greeting.
whole family, aunts, uncles, cousins, they all kiss each other on the lips.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
In Poland?
I don't know. In her family, I don't know. In her side of the family.
Just
but
a greeting, yeah.
We're going to go to a wedding in October, and I know there's going to be, not with me, there's going to be a lot of lip kissing, probably towards her. So I have no expectations to kiss anyone on the lips other than my wife. So
yeah, in the Hispanic culture, we do on the cheek, but I haven't seen on the
I'm super used to the cheek, for sure.
And you said, you asked, like, what's something that can build confidence? Something so small that I feel men can do is, like, adding cologne. Like, I think that makes such a huge difference.
Yes, every man needs a scent.
Like a smell, and you're like, I feel like that makes a difference. Cologne goes a long way.
Great.
Like,
That's a great tip, Nancy.
And it's such a small thing. I mean, you'll have to invest if you're trying to, obviously get some good stuff. But even for women, too.
You should. I mean, when I was...
Like, that's a simple thing that can be done.
I've been wearing cologne since I was 16. I used to do the Lacoste sport in high school, and everybody loved it, And then me and Nathan, that's another big thing. We got a lot of colognes, and it's very important to us, and the scents and the smells, and he has what he likes, I have what I like. And so that's part of my motif for young men is you should look appropriate, keep yourself tailored, keep your face trimmed up here, which was amazing. I recently met a young man who's married and has children, and he said, I was so nervous to meet with you. We went and got coffee. He said, I was so nervous to meet with you because I've listened to one of your podcasts about your expectations for men. He said, I went and bought a trimmer yesterday and I trimmed my beard for this meeting. And he goes, my wife is in heaven right now. And he goes, but he's like, but suffice to say, I did it for you, not her. So he's like, maybe I should change that. I'm like, yeah, you should. Don't do it for me, do it for your wife. Because he was like, I was a mess, And I was like, man, that's big of you. He's like, yeah, I even got my iron out. I ironed my shirt to have coffee with you. I trimmed my beard up. And I'm like, that's great. Now you should do that for you, not for me, because I'll definitely call you out, but don't do it for me. Do it for you, So
that's a great point.
Yeah,
do it for yourself.
I think that's big.
So I got a theory I want to ask Chelsie and Nancy.
Yes.
So my theory is, if a man can make a woman laugh,
then he can pull a female.
There's
that's
another
like out
one.
of
That's
his
the
category.
trifecta.
It's like it's out. So this woman, he wouldn't normally get her, but he could just make her laugh.
It's like that one guy that's getting all the women nowadays, the comedian guy. What's his name?
Yes.
Fluffy?
The tall guy.
Not Fluffy.
The guy who had Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Tall, kind of thicker, thicker
well, the
dude.
kind of ugly white guy. Well, they say he's ugly because it's like he's getting all these beautiful women, but like he physically he's not.
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
He's on the
Pete.
tip of the
That was
tongue.
with
Tip of the
Kim.
tongue. He was
Yeah.
with Ariana
Zero for
Grande,
me.
Kim Kardashian,
Yeah.
all that. They say. What was your question?
Okay,
So my question is my theory correct? Like if he's maybe he doesn't have a lot of money. Maybe he doesn't have. He's not in that same caliber as a woman that's just beautiful. Pete Davidson's as an example, but he could just make you laugh. You just have a great time with this person.
Yeah, I like a funny man.
But
And if they smell
here's
good.
again, and I don't know if I said it
That
2 episodes ago,
smell
but I was
good.
trying to say it. I've said it before.
Cologne.
Is in the town hall of life. If you have a town hall, then a man can do that, and a woman may look past the other things. But in a world we live in right now, where the first approach happens in a DM or Instagram or on or on a dating app, then he's not going to exhibit that kind of thing. So it's going to be hard because she's immediately going to judge. But that's where dating apps
Real
kind of
world.
suck
Yeah,
because
you gotta
That's
get
true,
in the
it's
real
because
like
a lot of men who
age,
are
blah blah blah. You got to have this bio. So it's basically I got to sell you with this bio before you give me a chance. Rather than
Well, there was this.
if you're in church and we're all just hanging out, you may go out on 8 outings and then finally a girl's just looking at him one night while everybody's getting ice cream after service and he's owning the whole room. Like he's cracking jokes, he got a spoon, over his head like antennas or something. Everybody's laughing in a right and she goes, "Oh, he has social control in his humor. There's confidence amongst social." So then she starts to see him in a new light.
That's the guy I was showing you guys.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
to
and
answer-
wait. Let me add to this. Let me add to this because it's a guy Jermaine really likes that I was sending them. There's
Jermaine doesn't like it.
There's this guy named Owen Cook, right? And he's like this balding, ginger, short, like just totally unattractive guy. But he's like this like pickup artist or whatever. So you see him going into these clubs, and it's fascinating because this guy, you would look at him, you're like, women would be repelled
He got
by
like a
this
little
guy.
belly and stuff
A
like
little
that.
pot belly.
Yeah.
But he's literally going
bod.
up to amazing looking women who are with amazing looking men. And he's totally stealing them away from them, all based upon what Adam is saying, based upon humor, based upon, confidence, all of these things. And you're sitting there and you're like, how does this make sense? So let me connect it. Let me connect it with Aaron.
But Nancy didn't agree. So I wanna hear this.
Wait. You're in a. So tell me what's going on here. Tell me what's going on here.
Nancy has a thing. Let her say her thing.
Go.
So, I mean, yeah, funny person I think goes a long way. I just don't like there's people that love the center of attention and I just want to be funny and everybody to see me and like, I don't like that vibe. So if he's like always trying to make a scene and let me tell a story and like, okay, give other people a chance. Like, you're funny, you're cool. So yeah, there's an aspect where I'm like a comedian, cool, but obnoxious and like so extra.
I think you take it a left turn.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone likes that guy.
Well, no, there's some. There's
You got people that- you know
that's
people
like
that
an
like that guy.
extreme. That's like an extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, the extreme,
always love
like
to
a
be the life of
goofy
the
class
party.
clown sort of a thing.
Yeah, class clown, no. But yeah, so I'll agree then.
Yeah,
and say
that's
if
all
it's a
we're saying. It's
comedian
just
and
a great
he's
example of that because it just emphasizes how that developing that social skill
Yeah.
of just being engaging because the typical guy nowadays, I mean,
Very passive.
playing video games all
Oh,
day
no,
inside his house. It's just he does, and it's like
Yeah, I can't.
No.
Speak up, Joe. Speak up.
And I was watching this guy, and I'm like, this actually applies great to like.
I'll tell that to
to
young
any
man. If
public-
he's talking to us, speak up.
Yeah, it applies great
Talk
to
louder.
even pastors in ministry because when you're in ministry, you're pastoring, you're around people all the time, and you're constantly having to engage with people, and so being able to notice things. And that's the thing. A lot of times we don't do that because we're so self-absorbed or we're so afraid of what people are going to think about us. But this skill helps you get outside of yourself and you start noticing the world around you. And so you're able to have conversation with people. And it's a really good skill. Even like in ministry where it's like, hey, bro, how you doing, man? Oh, man, that sure looks great on you. Or this looks great. You start noticing things and you talk about it and that you become more interesting. You become more engaging. And I think that's a great skill. That's a great element of social skills that men should try to harness nowadays. Yeah. I mean, women, because for women, that's like their default. Right? I mean, women are just social.
That's
like their default,
it's like,
right?
Well, for
I love your hair. I love your shoes.
I mean, it's just
great.
like a no-brainer for them. So it's not. It's more like for men to learn to develop that sort of skill.
Is this
really
true?
Good.
Like, so if the negative version of a guy is one that is very just quiet and passive and lacks initiation and all those things, like most girls would kind of tend to be like, oh no, they're not attracted to that. From what I heard though, is like the equivalent potentially for a girl is known as that like pick me girl. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Is that the equivalent nature?
Yeah, I would
define a pick.
I guess they're called a pick me girl. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So they always
Nancy?
want to be the center of attention. They're like, look at me. So they do things that'll make them try to stand out in front of people, right?
Yeah,
It's
and they
like,
always equate everything to themselves. So it's like, I love those sunglasses. I have a pair of sunglasses, and it's like the pick. It's like they're always leading in with choose me, like me, pick me.
Yes.
What do you think about my hair? What do you think about my thing? Everything is like, it starts as a compliment and then it turns
all about
to
them.
what do you think about me?
Yeah,
Oh, that man is great. I wish I could find a guy like that, and then they go into more of it should be me who has something like that.
Right.
So they're always equating everything to themselves and what they have.
So.
Like, is that kind of, do you know girls like that, Chelsea?
Yeah.
Or have met girls
girls
like that?
Yeah. Even just like, not even in relation to talking about men, but like if you have I've had homies where I was just like girls who I've talked to.
I picked it up. I'm part of the black community. I'm aware.
Where I'll be telling them a problem.
You can explain it for Caleb later.
Well, I'll be telling them a problem or a situation, and instead of just listening or hearing or continuing my conversation, it's like, yeah, well, I remember back in it's like, we're not talking about you right now. So there's a lot of people who, and I just equate that to you don't know how to have conversation. And the only way for you to converse is to make it about you because you're comfortable with you.
Well,
so I just think you lack social skills.
People listening for the sake of interjecting themselves.
Rather
But
than
that is an easy way a person can put themselves
conversation.
above the game. That's very easy skill to master because you're right. Because it's not common. The average person is so self-absorbed, right? It's not common to meet somebody
tell me more.
who's
Tell me
truly
how you
interested
feel.
in how the other person thinks and feels and willing to just listen to them as opposed to wanting to interject their own.
One of my best friends, I was telling him a story, and he said, after I finished telling him a story, what I was going through, he said, so what do you need me to be right now? Do you need advice? Do you need me just to listen? Do you need me just to carry this with you? And I felt so loved in that moment because you didn't piggyback. Yeah, I remember. I know exactly how you feel. I was there 5 years. He wanted to see how he can help in that moment. So I equate that as to he has great social skills. No, he's dating somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I knew you were about to go.
And he's your bestie.
No.
You, Aaron.
But that's great social skills. Somebody who can carry a conversation that's not about them.
Yeah.
People who make it about them, I think, just don't know how to have conversations, period.
Well, and Adam has attested to the success he's had in that skill, in developing that skill, in establishing the connections that he makes with these A-list people, which is very impressive.
Sometimes I name them, sometimes I don't,
He stays humble.
I like to keep people's friendships private.
Also...
But I honestly, other than, we had episode, but that specific distinctive, that's the one I learned from you, Caleb, because people would tell early on in your ministry, people would come and tell me, man, I just had a meeting with Caleb and I didn't realize how much I talk about myself. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they'd say, the whole time Caleb asked me a bunch of questions and I never asked him once about himself. And I walked away and I always said, if you meet Caleb, unless you ask, you won't even remember his name. If you can meet with him for 3 hours and you'll walk away and you won't even remember what his name was because he was so engaged to ask questions about you the whole time. And part of it is Caleb's childhood wonder. Like, he has this childhood wonder about everything. Like, if you say, oh, I deliver packages for UPS and I do a walking route, Caleb will, so you walk all day delivering packages? Guy will be like, yeah. How many miles do you think that equals? Guy's like, I don't know. Maybe,
I look at their calves.
Yeah, maybe
I can see
calf
that.
game,
Good muscles.
maybe 11 miles. Caleb would say, did you ever have a day where you had to do 14 miles? I'd be like, yeah, I did. What, have you ever had a dog that ever chased you? Yeah, we carry mace. You carry mace with you? That's Caleb's interaction with you when you talk to him one-on-one. And to you, that may sound like such a normal, like, why is this guy interested in my mail route? But Caleb is, if it's something he doesn't know or it's something that's kind of new to him, like, you'll walk away and be like, man, I think he just made me feel like my job's the president of the United States. And I saw him do that since I was 20 years old. And that was one of the clear distinctives. I was like, I'm going to be a guy that my goal in life is that if you meet me, you don't know one thing about me. That's my goal. Mm-hmm, now, I would love to share something about you because, of course, we love to talk about ourselves. But my goal going into a conversation is I don't want you to know a single thing, not out of privacy, but out of me carrying the conversation so much about you and what you need and how I can serve you and how I can learn about you, that you walk away and you go, man, I was so entrenched in this guy talking to me about me that I forgot to ask him anything about him. I view that as and that is the model I've tried to do ever since I was 20 years old. And that I specifically had learned from Caleb, because I noticed he did that with everyone, and now if the person asks me a question, I'm open book, but it's that endeavor to say, because some people like to play ping pong. You tell me a little bit about yourself, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. You tell me a little bit, and then all of a sudden I end up finding myself 45 minutes into the conversation, and I told you about my dog I had when I was 11 and how it died, and then all of a sudden I controlled the conversation, because even if, introverts and extroverts are pretty much 50-50. So there's many times I'll go to lunch with an introvert, and if I want to talk about myself, the introvert will let me talk about for 2 hours myself. Yeah. But they walk away and they're just like, man, that was cool, but they didn't feel like it was a very beneficial conversation. And they won't even, an introvert won't even tell you that they didn't feel it was a beneficial conversation. They'll just walk away. So for me, as a pastor, I know most of the time, especially when I talk to men, it's like they're going to be pretty quiet, pretty introverted. The only way I can get them to open up is I just have to find the right question that lights them up. It's just,
I find that thank you for that. But I also find that if I have, you say I'm a prophet, which is, my modesty wants to deny that, but it's
say I'm a dreamer.
If I have a prophet, if I have a prophetic gift, I feel like it comes out in that, because people, it's dangerous to converse with me in this sense, right? Because I'm no BS, no foolishness type of guy. Don't talk, like, I'm not gonna, like, so here's what I mean. So because I'm genuinely interested in the person, I'm genuinely interested in meaningful conversation.
You're going to cut the fluff out.
I'm going to cut the fluff out, and I want to know what's meaningful. I want to draw out the meaning behind the conversation, behind your life. And some people aren't willing to do that because for whatever, they're just too closed off or whatever. And those types of people, I discern it and I just back off and I'm on my way. Because if you're not willing to engage with me on a deep, meaningful level, because I'm the type of guy, I won't necessarily initiate a conversation, but I'll sit with you for 4 hours listening to you. Mm-hmm. But you need to be willing to be meaningful and deep in our conversation for me to do that. And from that, I feel like it draws out their heart and it helps them to maybe see things, or because sometimes we don't even know what we think or feel until we say it, until we have to express it. And I feel like I have that gift of getting that out of people, and then we both talk about stuff. So in that sense, in that prophetic sense, I think that's where my gift operates, because they'll say something like something that they believe or feel, and that'll give me the opportunity to be like, well, no, that's kind of stupid. Like, you should think about it this way. Yeah. You should like, no, don't do that. Like that, do this instead. And so you're able to, give insight to their situation. So
Well,
I feel like, because I've been
there's
thinking about it, because I don't feel like a prophet, but I'm like, okay, so if I have some sort of gift, I feel like that's the gift that I have.
Yeah, I mean, in a fivefold
to
ministry,
speak into that sort of.
I mean, I think that runs in the vein in a fivefold ministry.
Yeah.
Apostle, prophets, all that stuff like that. Like you would be in that sense. Here's an example of recent conversation I ever heard Caleb. Caleb basically led in with this, and he said, "If I overstep, forgive me, but would you mind let me ask you a question?" And he said, "Yeah," and it was in a particular situation, and he goes, "Isn't that unhealthy?" And then the person, like, we were all together, and the person was like, leaned back and was like, "Well, no, it's not. Well, maybe it is." It's just like, and they just had their own metaphysical experience off of Caleb just said, "Hey, if I overstep, you don't want to answer? Cool." But, where Caleb jumped, like you wouldn't jump in a first conversation in that sense, right? But because he can do it, and the way he does it is loving and genuine. It's based off of his gifting. Because per se, if I did it, it probably wouldn't have garnered the same response. It would have been like, "Bro, who are you?" But the person just flowered, and really processed some deep stuff. And we're all hanging out, but Caleb will go. You could have the most loose environment, and Caleb's gonna go deep at some point. Like it's gonna hit that at some point, which we've seen that before on the podcast. He's up here, and then all of a sudden, like boom, he's dropping the bomb. And I think people relate to that because then they're able to process with it. But with a one-on-one, like that is genuinely what you're doing. And yeah, people who reject it, the conversation doesn't go anywhere. But I've seen most of the time people go there with you. They'll for you. They'll do it for you.
And I also try to be open myself, and it garners that trust with people.
Sure you do.
Because I'm very transparent. I'm very open about my skeletons, my weaknesses, and my issues. Like, it's like I don't hide anything. Like the guys in our group text, like our closest friends, like they know all of the crap I'm thinking.
There's no secrets.
There's no secrets. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
There are no secrets with me. And so, I mean, my biggest temptation is honestly, my biggest temptation is putting a filter on some of the things, like having to put a filter, because sometimes I could be too
You come off heavy sometimes.
Expressive of what I'm thinking and not filter it enough. But yeah.
I think most people go, it's okay. It's Caleb.
Yeah.
It's Caleb. Yeah, I think anyone else, people go, it's Caleb. It's Caleb. Yeah. Like, he's good. He's good. But it's because what you said, you usually lead in with, like, your junk pretty heavy on the front end. And to the normal eye,
I'm the most self-critical.
Heavy,
I'm the most self-critical of myself and self-deprecating. So
have
it's
you
not like I'm
always been that way, or is there something that switched in your life that you're like, I'm just gonna start?
No, I think I've always been that way. I became more so after my trial because I gained strength from human experience more so than text, like books, Bible books, or any books, like I used to. Like I got so much from human experience. Brought me out of that pit. If there was one thing that got me out of that pit, it was learning from the human experience, how men, how women overcame certain trials, what they did to get out of it, how they responded to certain things. And so even like now, I have that skill on hyperdrive because it saved my life.
Yeah.
Like I literally go into any conversation thinking this person can tell me something that can change my life. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're a homeless man on the street. This person knows something that I don't know that can transform my life.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I like that. Well, hey, I think that's episode. What number are we on? Anyone know?
It's 47.
47 or something like that. We're coming up to our 1 year Annie in, what is it, October?
October 16th.
October's our 1 year
Yeah.
anniversary. So,
Yeah.
okay. I think we're still thinking about what we're going to do for that episode. Maybe we'll have like Kanye on or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'll reach out to him.
We'll reach out to the contacts, see what's good. Maybe we'll get Drake for Caleb.
Yeah, Drake.
I can rap one of Drake's songs.
You can? Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
I'm not gonna do it, but
What is it about?
God's
What
plan.
is it about Drake that makes women melt? Every woman loves Drake.
All right, I'm trying. We're landing the plane. I don't think every woman does, but
it seems to be the case.
All right, everybody. God bless you, and have a good, week. If we're ever listening to this, if
Whenever
it's
you're
Sunday, have a
listening.
great week. If it's
Bye,
Friday, have a great weekend.
Yeah.
All that
Ciao.
stuff like that.
Bye, guys.